Hi again, here we are. Well, for those who don't know me yet, I'm Toya Santa Cruz. I've been an EOI teacher for 15 years, and now I created EOI Por Libre to help you succeed at your EOI exam. And it's a pleasure to be here sharing tips and valuable information with you in these videos. Thank you so much for all your comments. So today I would like to start by thanking you for all your answers, whether email answers or Instagram answers, sharing your experiences in the listening exam, for example, well, in all the parts of the exam, but specifically this video is going to be about the listening part, because many of you have shared that you've had certain difficulties when you faced your listening test, from background noise in the audios, which is something that you should expect, especially when you are taking advanced level exams, C1, C2. This is my first tip for you is when you practice for your exam, try not to use headphones. That's the first thing, because in the exam, you're not going to have them. And it makes the situation rather different. Your experience can be a totally different world. So make sure you get as much practice as possible. How much is enough practice? I'd say you need to practice every day for some time. You can listen to random English, different accents, very important when you're preparing for C1, C2 specifically, also for B2. For B1, not usually that necessary to practice with many different accents. But of course, the bare minimum is American English, British English. We're going to give you some tips that are specific for the multiple choice type of test. And then in next videos, I will give you some tips for other types of listening task. Otherwise, this would get too long. So, of course, find tests from previous years that you can practice with that are multiple choice type. And it's very important to not only understand what they're saying in the audio, because a very different thing is to answer the questions. So, of course, you need to have a general understanding, but then they're going to ask you specific information. So you need to bear in mind that if you listen first and you answer later after listening, there will be details that you won't remember. And even if you understood them or identified them the moment you were listening, when you come to answer your questions, you won't remember. That's the most likely situation. So bear in mind that in higher levels, it's not enough with understanding the audio because the questions are specific and they are challenging in many cases or most cases. So if you're listening and at the same time you're reading the questions, it's very likely that you got lost in the audio, and that can also be a problem. So what to do? Yes, well, why would you get lost when you're reading at the same time as you're listening? Because the statements or the questions tend to be long. And when you're reading a long sentence, a long question, and then you have options below, then you cannot pay so much attention. You cannot focus so much on the listening. So then you'll probably rely on the second listening, the second time you're going to listen to the audio, but that may not be enough. So what to do? Okay, I'm going to give you some specific tips about what to do to prevent this. First thing, you need to underline. You need to underline keywords and specific bits of information that you are asked to identify when you're listening to the audio. And of course, you need to take notes. So first, when you're preparing before you listen, you need to underline and you need to identify the bits of information that are going to be essential for you to understand, to spot, to find. But then when you're listening, you need to take notes. Yeah, take notes that correspond to those specific bits of information that you're asked about and that you identified when you were reading the questions. Okay. A multiple choice test is a test that you're familiar with because you've done so many as a student of English for many years, right? So I'm sure you're familiar with it. You usually get a question or a statement and then 4 answers, 4 options, and you have to choose one of them. The thing is that the questions are, the answers are not literally taken from the audio. They're usually rephrased, they are expressed with synonyms, and that's the difficulty of the listening. And that's where also you get tested. We see if you have a good mastery of the language by understanding not only the sense, but also that you can interpret with different words. So the thing is that you will usually find information in most of the options that you're given that is said in the listening track. So when it is, it sounds familiar. Most of the options sound familiar because you heard them in the audio, but then you have to stick to the most specific answer, of course. I mean, I know this sounds obvious, but when you take notes of specific details and when you have underlined, and then it gets easier to identify the correct one. Okay, so that's important to bear in mind. Okay, then if you're taking B1, then usually general understanding is enough. And the options are more similar to what you find, what you will listen to, what you will hear from the audio. But when it gets to higher levels, the answers get more complex. Some tips, let's revise some tips. So read only the statements and underline, we said that, keywords, and specifically what you're asked. So that would make it easier for you to find the information, to spot it when you're listening to the audio. But you need to do that process first before you listen. Then listen to the audio, the second step, listen to the audio the first time, very carefully, take notes, and of course, relate those notes to your underlined information. Okay, good. Then when you finish the first listening, then you will listen again because you have to, the recording is played twice. Now, you have some time between the first and the second recording. So when you finish, you will have between, I don't know, 1 minute, 2 minutes, more or less, to reread your questions. And that is the moment when you can answer, or at least attempt an answer from your notes and what you understood from the first listening. And then you can underline some more information if you think that can help you, if you're not sure. And of course, so you will pay closer attention. Yes, you'll be even more focused in the second listening. And then this is a recommendation that has been very, very helpful, very useful for my students. And it's that answers that seem too obvious tend to be misleading. So be careful not to fall for them the first time. Just question yourself, question your answers, okay? So most of the times, because you hear all the information or most of the information that is in the listening, one answer sounds too obvious. If you think it's crystal clear, doubt a little, yes? And then make sure you still find that information in the listening the second time you're listening, just to make sure, okay? I'm not saying that it's not going to be the correct option. And then finally, respond to all the questions, answer all the questions, because in the EOI exam, you don't get penalized for wrong answers. So make sure you respond to all of them, even if you have doubts about some, but just do them all. And of course, practice with as many exercises as you can. As you know, we created an app, mobile app that you can use to practice, to train for your exam. You can find listenings, readings, exam type tasks. You can also find some models for mediation. You have learning tests with structures and phrasal verbs and idioms that you can use not only to keep your English alive, but also to train specifically for your exam. That's the purpose of the app. And that's about it. If you found this video interesting, let us know, please. Leave us a comment. Tell us what other kind of tips or help you would like to find in these videos, because we'll be very, very glad to record some more videos that will be of help. That's the purpose of all this. And that's about it for now. Keep up with the hard work, and I hope to see you soon here.